We'd like to start the press conference by Minister IWAYA. Minister, the floor is yours. Yes, thank you. Today marks exactly 1 month since my appointment as the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan. Now, in the meantime, we had the election of the House of Representatives. But Japan faces the most difficult and challenging security environment in the post-war era, which means that the path of diplomacy cannot be stopped. As North Korea launched ICBM-class missile yesterday, we held the first meeting of the 4 ministers under the National Security Conference under the new Ishiba administration. Also, on top of that, I had a phone conference with Secretary of State Mr. Blinken of the United States, as well as Mr. Cho Tae-yul, Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Korea. And we held the phone conference between U.S., Japan, and South Korea on this topic. Now, on that occasion, we exchanged views about and also condemned deployment of forces from North Korea to Russia, and also the deepening of military cooperation between North Korea and Russia, including transfer of arms between these 2 countries. We exchanged views on these matters, and we strongly condemned these actions. Protecting the peace of Japan and seeking stability in East Asia is extremely important for peace and stability of the whole world. So we'll continue to closely coordinate and respond between Japan and South Korea, and Japan, US, and South Korea, with the US-Japan Security Alliance as its core. So that is my opening comment. Thank you.
If you have a question, please raise your hand, and when recognized, please come close to your microphone and mention your name and affiliation and ask your question. Nishijima-san of Kyoto, please. I'm Nishiyama of Kyoto. I have a question with regards to North Korea's dispatch of troops to Russia. About this issue, President Zelensky of Ukraine and President Park had a teleconference on October 29th. As such, between Korea and Ukraine is having a direct communication at high level. Is it how about Japan? Is there a plan to have a high-level communication to be held between Japanese government and Ukraine? As you mentioned, about the dispatch of North Korean troops to Russia on the 29th of October, President Yoon and President Zelensky had a telephone summit. And that's how we understood. And with regards to the dispatch North Korean troops to Russia, inclusive of the possibility that they are to be involved in Russian aggression against Ukraine, the development of strengthening of the military cooperation between the Russia and North Korea will lead to worsening of Ukrainian situation. And also, from the perspective of its impact on the security environment surrounding Japan, we have grave concern. And we are working closely with international community and US and Korea, and we have intention to further strengthen such close working relationship. Between Japan and Ukraine, on a normal basis, we're having a close communication at different levels, but having I hope to have a high level communication at the appropriate timing, and we wish to strengthen further the collaboration with Ukraine.
Kamura-san from Yomiuri, please. Next question. Thank you. Coming from Yomiuri Shimbun, I'd like to ask about the UN recommendation with regard to Imperial House Act. I'd like to ask several questions at a time. Just please go ahead. On October 29th, CETAW, or the Committee on CETAW, recommended that the Imperial House Act be revised because this only allows for mainline heirs. I understand the Japanese side made a protest in years for deletion. When did you carry out this protest? Also, what's the level of the complaint and protest, rather? On a related note, I think in the past we had similar recommendations from the UN committee. And I understand that you sought deletion at the time of the draft, but then did you actually approach the committee on deletion of this matter at the drafting stage? Yes, thank you. With regard to the Japanese report with regard to CDAW, a committee on discrimination, all forms of discrimination against women. What we did was that on the 17th of October, when the discussion will be held at the committee, we explained that the succession of the imperial throne relates to the very foundation of Japan as a nation. And we believe that in the light of the spirit of this Convention on all forms of discrimination against women, which is the objective of the committee, it is not appropriate that this committee accept the Japan's Imperial House Act. Now, after the completion of the investigation, we communicated our view to the committee that qualification with regard to the throne is not contained under the notion of basic human rights. So therefore, we believe that this mainline area that is indicated in the Imperial House Act does not qualify as a discrimination against women. And we also communicate our strong regret to the committee based on our position. However, despite that, the fact that in the final review, the fact that the committee decided to include this discussion about the mainline, about the succession of the throne in the committee is extremely regrettable. With this announcement, we made strong protest against the committee, and we strongly asked that the relevant portion be deleted. Now, the protest was done on the very day of the announcement of the final view of the committee, and this was done by the minister, by the head of the Japanese mission in Geneva to the committee. Also, with regard to the past, I think you also asked about the past. At the review of the CDAW, which was held in 2016, although the Imperial House Act was not taken up whatsoever until the very end of the review, the fact that the recommendation was included in the very final recommendation was not appropriate. So therefore, we made our filing, and that the relevant portion was deleted because of the issues pertaining to the procedural problem. In any event, the fact that this Imperial House Act was taken up at this review, and that the fact that there was discussion about the Imperial House Act in the final review is extremely regrettable for us. We believe that the succession of the imperial family relates to the very foundation of the country of Japan. And in the light of the spirit of the CW, in light of the Convention on Election of all forms of discrimination against women, it's not appropriate forum to take up the Imperial House Act. So that is the Japan's position, and we have repeatedly carried out a protest to the committee. We also asked that the relevant portion should be deleted. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Next, Asahi-san of Panorient News, please.
Thank you, Mr. Khaldun Azhari, Panorient News. It's becoming increasingly clear that the current approach of condemnation rhetoric and imposing sanctions against North Korea is ineffective, if not useless, as are demonstrated by the recent launch and other launches of highly sophisticated missiles that proved the continued advancement of North Korean military technology. A new approach, instead of the confrontation Japan and its allies are taking, seems to be urgently needed to save the region from a nuclear war or a less nuclear war, devastating war. Does Prime Minister Ishiba proposed East Asian security strategy does it call for a diplomatic approach or an arms race and confrontation in the region to settle the problems between these countries? The urgent need for a diplomatic solution cannot be overstated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, the launch of the ICBM yesterday, and including that, the nuclear and missile development by North Korea is the violation of UN security resolutions to begin with, and it threatens not only Japan but the region and international community's peace and security. That is how I see. And so your question, I understand, is that we need to change our diplomatic approach, but based on national security strategy, fundamentally strengthening our defense capability, and at the same time, through diplomatic efforts, we hope to achieve a peace. That is our basic ideas. Under the National Security Strategy, or NSS, as a main elements of comprehensive national power in relation to security of Japan, diplomatic capability is focused, and carrying out diplomacy to prevent crises and proactively create a peaceful and stable international environment. That should be done as the first thing to be done. And then on top of that, Japan's basic policy about North Korea is to base on Japan DPRK Pyongyang Declaration and solve outstanding issues such as abduction, nuclear, and missile, and settle and work on the unfortunate past and normalize the relationship. And there's no change in that thinking at all. So, dialogue, we are still be ready to have dialogue, and will continue to work closely with the international community, inclusive of US and Korea. And we call for full implementation of relevant UN Security Council's resolution, and will continue to call for complete dismantlement of North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missiles. And to that end, we will work on diplomatically and ultimately, as mentioned, based on Japan DPRK Pyongyang Declaration, normalization of the relationships is what we aim at achieving. Thank you.
Any other question? Any other question? If not, then we'd like to conclude the conference today. Thank you. That is the end of the conference. Thank you. Thank you.